pointed at me as I'm talking. Or, you know.
Videographer.
All right, let's come over here and focus on this for just, and I hope to get through this in like 15, 20 minutes. So this is something that you could do without the photo stencil. This is a way to make a stencil. So you guys know what we're talking about when I'm talking about a stencil, right? That's like similar to the monoprint process. The stencil, I'm gonna make, you know, a shape, and this is a way to do it without your film. So last week I demoed in some ways the more complicated side, which was coating the screen and burning the stencil onto the photo emulsion. This time I'm going to do a direct stencil with paper, and in a way it's a lot related to our monoprint project where we were doing that on the press. This is like the simplest way to make a silkscreen, and it's sort of like an exciting process. And it's something that you could do like today in like 20 minutes. And I think it's a good thing to add, and it's one of your, remember we had those 3 components that you have to add into your collages? This is one of them. You could do it either this way, or you could do it on the press the same way that we did our monoprint project. So similarly, I'm gonna start out with a paper stencil. It works best with newsprint because newsprint just sticks right to the screen in a really cool way. It's so thin and so porous that it sticks to the screen really well. I've tried it with some other kinds of paper, and this actually works the best. So I've cut out a stencil, and just like in our monoprint project number 2, I've left the negative space for myself too. You don't have to do that part, but it works out kind of well. I've prepared some things in advance. One is that I took the piece of paper that's the size I want to print on, and I made some registration marks. That means that every time I put the paper down, it's going to land in the same place. I've also done something, and I told you guys to do this for your photo stencil too. I've cut a bunch of paper that's the same size as the paper that I want to print on. So here's I'm going to be printing on my Kozo paper. This is 1/4 of a Kozo sheet. And I've cut a bunch of other paper that's the same size, and I have that ready. Because remember, similar to our photo stencil, it takes a while to work up the silkscreen and to get it printing right. So you'll want to be sort of working on the, your junk paper. Okay, so the other thing that I've done is I put my paper where I want it, and then, and this is the important thing about making this direct stencil method, I've taped out where I want the print to land. So I could actually see with this screen, I can see right through the screen, and I can see the paper, and I just about a 1/2 inch border on the inside, I put my blue tape. And that means that now this part of the screen is open, this is gonna make the print, and all of this part of the screen is closed off so that the ink can't get through it. So that's sort of the beginning of my stencil. So if I printed this right now, which I will, I would make a square of ink that's almost the entire size of my paper. So you can imagine if you just wanted like a little square of pink somewhere in your collage, you would just, tape that off and you would make that size square. So I've mixed some ink. I'm basically ready to go. I've got my screen locked in. I've got the squeegee that I want, and I have my paper in place. I'm also going to do something, and we demoed this a little bit when we were when we did our monoprints on the press. I'm going to make a little gradient in silkscreen. It's called a fountain roll, and but basically I'm just going to make a little gradient between this pink and purple. It's kind of good to start out the mixing on the, I'm going to sort of mix them together right here. It looks really cool for the first couple prints. And then it starts to, it looks cool the whole time, but it starts to, well, you'll see. So just like when I'm printing my photo silkscreen, the first print that or the first sort of thing that I'm gonna do with this squeegee is called the flood. The first thing I do is I flood the screen like that. And during the flood, I'm putting the ink into the screen. Then I'm gonna do my print stroke, and that's gonna happen in this direction. And now my screen is down, touching the paper. Oops. And I'm gonna print it like that. And then I'm gonna peel my thing off. Oops, messed that up. And I'm gonna hand that to my partner. Thank you. And now, before I put my paper back in there, I'm gonna lift the screen off the table and I'm gonna flood it again. That kind of marbleized effect goes away after a little while. So if you're trying to make an addition, you should get rid of that marble before you put your like good paper down. I sort of like it, and I'm not going for a perfect addition. I'm going for an addition verrier, so I'm going to use that marble a little bit. Hopefully that, oh yeah, will you like grab the corner of that so it doesn't? That's perfect, thank you. Perfect, thank you. And now, before I put my paper down again, I'm gonna flood it. Now I'm gonna put a piece of paper down, but I'm also going to add the stencil. Paper goes on my registration marks, and I'm gonna add my stencil, and you'll see what happens. I've already flooded, and now I'm gonna print. And now my stencil, hopefully, sticks to the paper, or sticks to the screen, and my paper can gently peel off. Yay! And now I have the stencil. So the newsprint is stuck to the screen. I'm gonna flood in this direction. It's always good to have a little roll of tape here so that I can sort of work around. And now every print that I make is gonna have that stencil stuck to it. Go like that.
Definitely two people kind of.
It's a two-person job, it really is. Okay, that is, oh, actually, I guess I'll just do the rest of them. Just to, yeah, that one.
So cool.
One more.
So if you want to try to get that marble, like more, what would you try to do?
I mean, I guess you could just keep putting
Just more in.
the pink back into it. And then it would never mix. But it really is like, it's tricky because the way it really happens is on that first flood.
Right.
And you never really get the opportunity to make that first flood again. You know what I mean? Like that was sort of that was like your one shot to get that first flood. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to black ink. So I'm not gonna flood it because I'm gonna switch to black ink. It's not gonna be perfect, and if you really wanted to switch to black ink, I would recommend taking all this off, washing out your screen, and starting over. But because I'm sort of, I don't know, want to show it to you right now in 10 minutes, I'm gonna try to just put the black ink right into the screen. I do, however, need to, I'm gonna clean my squeegee off a little bit. And I really could only do this going from a light color to black, and it'll kind of be gray because of the white that's in here. But who knows, maybe I'll get a cool marble too.
Are you gonna reprint on one
I'm
of
gonna
these?
print right on top of it, yeah.
Do you want this one?
Oh.
What was it?
Do you want a specific one?
Well, it's gonna take me a minute to do this, so, and hopefully that will be dry-ish as I'm doing this.
So these dry faster than the other ones
They
we've
dry
been doing?
really fast.
Wow.
Yeah, they dry really fast. So I'm gonna try to save some of this ink. We could make like a weird purple out of it. So I'm gonna take all of this off. And also, I made this little like paper dam kind of to collect my extra ink. And that works pretty well as long as you use, we have a couple kinds of extra paper in the shop. Feel around for the paper that has like a glossy surface. And that's a little more water resistant than our other paper. So I'm gonna take all this stuff off. I don't want this to mix with my black ink. And this can just go right in the garbage. And I'm gonna try to do it sort of carefully so that I save my initial square.
Professor, I have a
Yes.
question.
Yes.
Could you do fabric with this method, or would you need the press for that?
You could do fabric with this.
Wow,
I
really?
could put, I could put it, and maybe in like maybe next week even, I'll show you guys a few little tricks for doing a shirt, basically. Like the thing, if I wanted to put a shirt in here, you could just imagine the only thing that I would really need to think about, of course, like maybe my square would be smaller, but the other thing that I would need to think about is that the shirt, the ink is gonna go through the fabric too. And so another consideration with the shirt is that you'll want to put something inside the shirt so that it doesn't print onto itself, and also to sort of flatten it out.
But how does it, is it going to stay with every wash, or how does it, yeah, it's gonna stay?
It depends on what kind of ink you use. These are
Right.
textile inks.
Oh, cool.
And so they're actually, all of the ink, you'll have to look at the inks that we have in the shop though, they're not all like that. You know what I'll just do, I'll tape it.
Aren't there also like fabric inks?
Yeah, these will, and I think you could probably read about it, you could probably read about, like, look this up online and read about it. It might need to be heat set, which would mean that you would just like take a blow dryer to it or something.
Okay.
Have you ever done it with these inks, Malachi? Have you ever printed on fabric with these?
Yeah.
And did you have to blow dry it or iron it or anything?
No, we gotta just printed it and it was fine.
Yeah. And you put it in the washer and it was all right?
I'm pretty sure this is what you used in Art Collective a couple of years ago, I think.
Was it the same,
I want to say yes, I don't remember. It was, I think that we had here though, and I didn't have to do anything to it. Like, I still have shirts that have been through the washing
Oh,
machine
really?
and they're fine.
Oh, that's cool. That's exciting.
Yeah.
It'll probably get, if anything, like a little faded, but it won't be really crazy.
Yeah, one of them, one of mine is like slightly faded, but like you can still read it, and the other one is perfectly fine. So.
Wow.
It probably depends on the type of fabric. Like, I would think maybe cotton fabric or like
Would
linen
would
would work
absorb
really
better,
good with
yeah.
this. While something thinner might have it fade away or something like
Right.
that.
So, just in the interest of time, I'm being a little quick about this, but basically, I've got my square still, and I want to tape out so that the ink doesn't go around the square and get in over here. And now I'm going to put some black ink in, and I'm going to change my stencil out.
How much does the ink cost? Like,
It's expensive. One of these big ones is probably like $50, $40.
Oh, no, I thought it was $100 or
That's
something.
that's $50. I mean, that's not expensive.
Yeah, that's
I can't-
expensive.
Okay, it's fine.
You have to buy a little bit.
Yeah, that's like $7 for a tube this
Wait,
big.
maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure actually.
Is it on the
Yeah, I'm sure you can find out on the website. And also, that same company that we talked about that'll burn your screen and
Right.
make your screen for you also sells this
Do
stuff.
you want me to hold anything?
I'm gonna give you this. I'm gonna remove my little, oh, it's a little bit stuck. We'll do it slowly. It worked so well that it just got stuck. Oh, probably also because I sort of let it dry on there.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, now I'm gonna go, oh, you know what I'm gonna do? Well, what am I gonna do? I need to flood it first. I'll edit that part out of the video. Me not knowing what to do. Maybe I'll print a whole thing just to get the pink out of there. And let's just take this off.
Oh, it's kind of cool.
that
Oh,
is
look, it's
kinda
like a
cool.
ghost print. Oh, that's so cool.
Now I'm gonna put my stencil on. I need a piece of paper in there. And the other nice, and so I'm gonna put my stencil right where I want my negative shape to be. Oh, I'll put it on this side. Oh wait, I'll put it on this side.
Oh, I see. That's how you get it to like not mix
Okay,
with
okay,
the.
I understand,
Yeah.
I don't understand how to put those things together, that's kind of puzzling me out.
Put what together?
All the prints together, like make a collage, but then what, stick to Kozo?
Well, let's talk about that in just a minute because
Okay.
I'll show you, because then next I'll show you how to sort of start thinking about your collage. If you start. Okay, so now I can start to, I think, just print back on, let's have one of those. Is there a cool looking one?
The first one is
Yeah.
thick.
Awesome.
Yeah, this one.
Awesome.
Oh, this reminds me of when we did the 2 prints on top of each other.
Yes, so basically this is another option for,
That was so hard, that project.
So like discharge things, which is like for a gallon.
Yeah.
$65.
65 per gallon.
But how long is it, it's not gonna dry sitting inside of the thing or?
Sitting inside of the screen?
No, sitting inside of the jar, it's not gonna dry inside?
You probably get
You
like
know,
a
like,
film
if
on
you're
top.
not-
It's probably like the film like our regular ink does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, no, these are all water-based inks. So they're less, it's less like the oil where it would skin over.
Right, okay.
And so as long as it's not touching the air, it's,
Right.
you know, not drying.
Yeah, that's a giant thing.
Oh wait, let's try peeling it this way.
I think we will.
Yeah, true. We're here for the riot.
Let's see if I
Oh shit. All right, we need one more hand.
I think we should, oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I think we have to peel it, we'll just see what happens if we go like that. I think we have to peel it in the other direction now. So I'll flood. That's what I didn't think about that. And let's try one of those ones with the white. That's okay.
Yeah?
Which way do you want it? This way
Let's
or
go
the other?
that way, yeah, so there'll be a white tree on one side and a black tree on the other side. And then maybe that's all we can get out of this. Now let's try peeling it
From the
this
bottom?
direction. Oh, you know what we're doing too? Did we do anything? I don't know.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
That looks cool.
Oh, this one's cool. Okay.
That looks awesome. Okay, let's do one more then. And then I won't, on my last one, I'm not gonna flood.
Why?
Because now, because I'm gonna clean it out. And it's gonna be easier to clean if I don't flood it.
It's like a character story.
I think it would be an easy, because I have those weird little scallops in the shape, I think it was harder to, oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, this is cool.
Okay, so now I'm gonna do one more, actually I'm gonna flood because I'm gonna show you one more thing. I'm gonna flood it, and then we're gonna talk about the big paper and my collage edition. What happens now when I want to print on, let's say that I wanted my whole, sheet of Kozo. It doesn't fit under here.
Right.
So what do I do?
What if one side or something?
Do you hop off or something?
I can take the whole thing off. And now I can look at this and I can say, where do I want that shape? Where do I want that shape on my Kozo? I'm trying to think about my whole collage. I'm gonna be doing a bunch of stuff to it. I say that I want my shape like over here somewhere. So I'm just gonna take the whole screen.
Wait.
I'm gonna look at where my shape is, and I'm gonna put my screen right down onto here, and I'm gonna print my shape onto my Kozo. And now this time I won't This time I won't flood it. And so there is an option. I'm not totally crazy about how that would work out. Like, I think it would have been good to practice on I had stuff that I was gonna practice on, to practice a few times to get, I think that I'm getting some drying around the corners of my stencil. But that would be the way, if you're thinking about using full sheets of Kozo, you're gonna have to forego the clamp at some point and just start moving your screen around. And that would be like if you were doing a big textile, anything like that, you can actually just take this screen and start to move it around. A big piece of canvas. This thing does not always have to be in there. It's harder to control. You don't want to just take the screen and plop it onto the paper, because then, you know, the ink on the bottom will start to contact the paper. But good to have a friend to do that part with. You can just, you know, detach the whole thing and move it around your Kozo. And then that sort of could be your collage base. So now what I would do, you guys don't have to watch this part, but I'm going to try to gather all that ink, put it back in the jar, take all the tape off, and then start to clean all my tools. Any questions? Yeah.
And you could take those if you wanted. Let's say like something on that piece of paper you like a lot. You could cut that out and collage on.
You could, yeah, you can do that.
So what glue you would suggest to use it on a Kozo?
Wait, what?
What glue?
Oh, we can look at, there's a powdered glue in the other room that we can talk about. Maybe I'll demo that when I do the citrusol.
Okay.
And you can actually run it through the press to adhere it. So you can get a really nice,
right?
yeah.
So cool.
And maybe we'll do that to one of these, like I can cut it out and like glue it on. We can see that, how that works.
Great.
Yes.
Can you just explain what the flooding does again?
Okay, so the flooding is actually just as important as the print stroke, because what the flooding is doing is it's taking that line of ink and it's putting it into the screen. And so I'm doing it at a 45-degree angle and I'm pushing the ink into the screen. Otherwise, there would be no ink to print when I went back with my print stroke. The other thing that the flooding is, and so it has to be in there to be able to print it out. It's putting an even layer of ink in, that's the flood. The other thing the flooding is doing though, is it's preventing the ink from drying in the screen while I'm getting my next paper, you know, registering, situating it. If you're ever gonna walk away from the screen, flood it before you walk away. But also, once the ink is in the thing, you have to be printing every minute, every 45 seconds. So make sure that everything is around you that you need to be able to start like right away. Yes.
So since the final we have to have like the same size prints, we would get the small ones and then put it on here.
I would do that, or you could plan your print. I would love it if you started thinking about doing all of this to the big paper. So if I was you guys, I would decide, like, some of you were talking about using big paper. I would try to print stuff onto that. Print your photo on there, do a stencil on there. I would really try to like get some stuff on there, but also collaging onto it will work too. But if that seems too unwieldy and you don't need to end up with a piece of paper that big, I would maybe say, okay, I'm gonna go half sheet, I'm gonna go quarter sheet, and then your collage could sort of be more in that size range. Either way, every time you, and you don't have to, I don't think you guys have to decide in the first week or two of class. But when you're experimenting, maybe experiment on, you know, our junk paper and sort of work your image up, see what kinds of things you want to get, play around with it. And then maybe in week 2, then say, okay, I think I can handle the big sheet, or I think I want to concentrate on smaller sheets. But if I was doing this for like the assignment, and I want to work big. Right. So I'm thinking about getting something right and then putting it on the big paper. Getting something right on junk paper and then putting it on the big paper. But you can see, like, that's why we need so much paper, is because I did that and then I feel like the print that ended up on there is like not so good. So that paper I might, but who knows, like I might do something else to that and it might be my favorite print.
Professor, you had this is a thick paper.
Yeah, this is under the this is the paper in the shop.
Right.
And I was just putting that under there in case it bled through.
Okay.
but it didn't actually.
Can we print in this room or?
Yes,
Okay.
you should, yeah, all of these tables you should print
Oh,
on.
really? Okay.
Yeah, this
So
is a
like,
good,
level with the,
yeah.
like a good height.
Yeah, I can take this off too, and somebody even could use this screen if, once I wash it out, this is a good, that's a good screen. What else? I did the screen. Well, then here's what I think we should do. Start to set up, decide what you wanna do, start to set up. I'm gonna clean for like 10 minutes and then I'll start answering questions. Yes, Sam?
Okay, the photo transfer.
Yes.
How do we do that?
Oh, I'm gonna show you that in like an hour and a half.
Okay, good.
So start working and then I'll show it to you. Cool, thank you.